Scotland. You know it's home, you know it's beautiful, but do you ever wonder who actually owns it? We're not short of space in Scotland, but just 432 individuals own half of all the privately held land in the country. I want to meet the people behind those numbers. I'm going on a journey. It'll take me around Scotland. I'll visit beautiful places and meet powerful people. The multi-millionaire property tycoon dressed in tweed. The man whose family owns some of our most spectacular lochs and mountains. And the laird whose family marched with Wallace and Bruce, who's up to his oxters in mud. This is a story which matters to all of us. It's a story about who owns Scotland in the past and who should own it in the future.
If we don't see a fair distribution of land, then we're Parliament. We will have failed the people of Scotland.
It may not be fair, but I mean, is it fair that your wife is prettier than mine?
If someone doesn't have the bank balance to be able to buy it, maybe that is unfair, but that's the way life is.
I have thousands of miles ahead of me, my quest to meet the men who own so much of Scotland. The question is, do they want to meet me? I'll let you into a secret, they aren't all keen. But here in Wester Ross, I've struck lucky. In these parts there's one chap who knows more about this stuff than anyone else, and he's agreed to get on his bike and help. Morning, John.
Morning.
How
Good
are
morning.
you today?
And a nice morning it is too.
I wasn't expecting a traditional Highland laird to arrive dressed quite like this. I was expecting tweeds.
Bad luck.
John McKenzie owns 53,000 acres. His family was given this land by James IV in the 15th century in recognition of loyal service. Being close to the source of power pays, but these days it's renewable energy rather than royal patronage which helps balance the books. John's new hydro scheme here has an added bonus: heartbreakingly beautiful views over the sea to sky. John, there's one thing sitting here which I just can't get my head around, and that is this. What does it feel like to know that you own all of that?
It may seem odd, the notion that's mine doesn't really occur very often. It's always been in my family. Yeah, I'm very proud of it and delighted that it's still in one piece, that it's passing on. I mean, I'm pretty much redundant now anyway. My son is in charge and he's taking over, so we continue another generation.
And so it goes on?
Well, so it goes on at the moment, but under today's political pressure, we'll see. Whether we'll do another 500 years, I'm not entirely certain, but I won't be around, so I don't care.
Go west and you'll discover John's land is a classic Highland sporting estate, created to provide deer to shoot and salmon to fish. But John also owns thousands of acres further east. In these fertile fields, farming is the name of the game. One family, tens of thousands of acres. He's one of the 432 people who own half of Scotland's privately owned land. Is it fair that so few people own so much of our country in the 21st century?
Is fairness really a critical element in life? It may not be fair, but I mean, is it fair that your wife is prettier than mine? That you win the lottery when I don't? It's a concern stirred up, as far as I can see, by those with axes to grind. But frankly, the people who live in these kind of large areas in single ownership doesn't seem to bother them.
It sounds like you're saying to me, life's not fair. Get over it.
Perfectly fair. Yes, That's how it is. I don't think fairness is of itself necessarily a terribly critical thing.
John may not think fairness is an issue, but many other people do. And some of them are determined to do something about it.
If we were starting from scratch, I doubt anyone would design a system where you ended up with only 432 people owning half the private land. I mean, there's some, obviously, degree of doubt about the actual figures, but let's take it as a given that is the accurate figure. You know, I wouldn't design a system where you ended up with such a concentration in wealth and ownership in such a small group.
Fundamentally, is the system we have here in Scotland fair or unfair?
I think there are still unfairnesses in the system. I think that's a fair comment to make. And that's why we are on a journey in this particular parliamentary session to try and deliver radical reform.
Our current system of land ownership has deep historical roots. Land has always been intertwined with privilege and power. And the thing that makes Scotland distinctive is the dominance of sporting estates. Even today, around a quarter of the country is still devoted primarily to shooting, hunting and fishing. The league table of big landowners includes the government, the National Trust for Scotland, and even the RSPB. But traditional estates still hold 5 of the top 10 places, with the Duke of Buccleuch's estates leading the pack. I wanted to speak to one of the really big traditional landowners, maybe even a duke. But despite trying pretty hard, none of them wanted to talk to me. This is the man who fights their corner, and his time is often spent staving off the blows of land reformers.
Are landowners being demonised?
I think landowners, to an extent, are being demonised.
Fundamentally, is the argument that life isn't fair. One big landowner said to me, my wife may be more beautiful than his wife. We've simply got to get over that.
Well, as I said earlier, there's an open property market there. There are estates, small bits of forest, bits of land for sale every day. They're there for everyone to take the opportunity. If someone doesn't have the bank balance to be able to buy it, maybe that is unfair, but that's the way life is.
Ayrshire has changed a lot since I grew up here. Today I've come home to meet another local boy. We have a lot in common. We're about the same age. But while my earliest years were spent in a bungalow, his were spent in a walloping great castle. Simon Crawford and his family own 600 acres in Ayrshire. It's a relatively small estate, but the family has played a big part in Scotland's history. Their reward, land and that castle.
It's not bad living in a castle, but there's always the concern about what's going to go wrong next. And the repair bills in a building this size are not inconsequential, so that can be quite a worry sometimes, yes.
This isn't Downton Abbey, is it?
No, I don't think it is Downton Abbey. It's a little bit more like real life. But I like doing it, that's why I do it. But I don't do it because I'm making lots of money doing it.
This is a semi-detached castle. Simon and his family live in one half, the other is let as holiday accommodation. Simon's ancestors, friends of kings, would never have suspected their home would one day have to accept paying guests. But that's the reality.
We were with Wallace at his time. The family and Wallace's mother were close relations. We were at Bannockburn, we were at Flodden.
It sounds as if the family have always been a part of Scottish history, like a line of thread running through the tartan of Scotland's history.
It's a good way, a lovely way of putting it. Yes, we've been there at all the major points in time, I think. Where do you want to break history?
Simon works hard and he thinks his family is well placed to go on. There's a trout fishery to run. The servants' quarters are now a boarding kennel. He'll even sell you a cardboard coffin if you want to be laid to rest in Crawfordland's environmentally friendly burial ground. My time here is almost over, but the dirty jobs keep on coming for Simon. He's putting on his waders, but this laird's not going fly fishing. Simon has some heavy-duty cleaning to do, preparing for a mud race. People come from all over central Scotland to run through your mud, don't they?
They do, yes.
And spend good money along the way?
Yes, it's another revenue stream for us. Horrible things in there. And quite repulsive.
Think of a traditional Scottish landowner and the chances are you won't think of someone like Simon. But his family have been here since 1245, and there are those who would argue people like Simon shouldn't be able to inherit an estate like this one. I have to say, after seeing just how hard he's worked through the course of today, I'm asking myself, why not? This debate isn't just about who owns the land, it's also about what big landowners do with it. Those lucky enough to own tens of thousands of acres have huge influence on the land and the people who live on it, and how they use that influence can be crucial. I've left the southwest behind and travelled to one of the wildest corners of the northeast. This is the Cabrach and Glenfiddich estate. It's remote, it's beautiful, but the local councillor here warns the community is in crisis.
I represent a very large rural area, and this is probably the one at the furthest edges of decline.
What could this place look like in the future if you don't achieve the kind of changes you want to see?
Well, the few houses that are left will be gone and unoccupied. There just will be nobody here but sheep and maybe a few grouse, and that's about it.
This glen has lost 3/4 of its population over the last century. For the last 35 years, the landowner here has been Christopher Moran. He's a wealthy, self-made man, worth £264 million, according to the Sunday Times Rich List. And he's another of the 432 landowners who own half the privately held land in Scotland. He's a noted philanthropist, but he was also the first man to be banned from Lloyd's of London. Mr. Moran is usually very keen to protect his privacy, but today he's agreed to be interviewed for the first time about his running of the estate. First of all, I couldn't resist asking if he really was worth more than £250 million.
Perhaps those figures are true, perhaps they're not. I really don't pay much attention to it.
Why did you choose to come here, buy land and invest in this community?
I walked pretty well every hill in Scotland, north, south, east and west, and as a young man, and loved Scotland. I love the Highlands.
Things here at the Cabrach have been in decline since the start of the 20th century. What was a thriving community has seen its population ebb away. I want to know, has Christopher Moran done enough for the people who live on his land?
There is so much that a landowner can do just by being here, and the sort of efforts that he puts into the surrounding estate and the community, the jobs, the housing that can be provided here. I'm afraid we're just not getting any of that support. And we could rebuild this community. There are lots of rural areas that have, with the right landowner and their support, have been able to bring themselves back to life. And I'm afraid this is just not happening here.
But is it fair or realistic to expect a single landowner